So, here we are again, doing My Hero Academia Vigilantes breakdown on the most recent episode. So, let's get this party started. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do My Hero Academia Vigilantes Season 1, Episode 9 breakdown and review. And with this episode, there's a lot of stuff that we need to break down and a lot of small changes that I want to bring up. So before I go more in depth into those changes and adaptations, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I upload more content like this, and leave a like on the video if you want to see more content like this. And with that, let's go right into the breakdown / review. And to start off, the episode titles Mother Descends takes its name from Manga Chapter 16, as this episode actually covers material from Chapter 16, page 18 and onward, as well as chapters 17 and 18. And starting off from where we left off in the last episode, we begin with Makoto introducing herself as Koichi's girlfriend, as Koichi asked her to do so, as his mother immediately knows that he is lying, and we get to see in this moment Koichi's mom's quirk in action, as it's revealed to be Fly Swatter, an ability that is able to hit people from a small distance away. And this is how pretty much the episode starts, but I would like to mention that in this episode, it's based off the material from Volume 3 of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, where we do have a reveal in that volume that Koichi's mom's name is Shoto Hamawari, which is not something that actually comes up in this episode, but I will be referring to Koichi's mom as Shoko from now on. But after the OP, where we get the title card still being professional, the scene plays out very much like it was in the manga, with Koichi and Makoto talking together as Kazuho, aka Popstep, and Kuroiwa, aka Knuckle Duster, are coming in as they are introduced to his mother, as this is the moment where it's revealed who their real name is to each other, but we as the audience already kind of knew who their names were, especially those who have been watching my videos. It's also during the scene that their names are revealed, which is also being used to try and convince Shoko to have Koichi stay in Tokyo and not bring him home. But there are 2 points that I do want to highlight, which is the attraction that Makoto and Koichi's mom, Shoko, has towards Knuckle Duster, which leads into Makoto asking if Knuckle Duster is a hero. And from this moment, we do get an added scene of Knuckle Duster from behind that is preceded by the rant about how being normal from Koichi's mom, Shoko, leads to Pop leaving and Koichi trying to comfort her and failing miserably. And what I find interesting about this small scene is how it pretty much explicitly foreshadows how Knuckle Duster's connection to being a previous pro hero in the anime versus what was in the manga, which is still very much up in the air. So yeah, if you didn't think that Knuckle Duster was potentially a former pro hero, this pretty much just adds fuel to that fire. But also, another neat detail with the anime is that when Knuckle Duster is accurately, yet discreetly, describing what he does, we see new added images depicting him as well as Pop and Koichi in more civil servants attire, wearing more traditional uniform to emphasize what people would assume that they do versus what they actually do, which is act as vigilantes. And alongside that small detail, another detail that if you look closely at when you compare the anime versus the manga is that we also get to see more of Koichi's room in detail versus the manga during his mom's describing of Koichi as a kid, as we see his room is filled with more All Might merchandise, showing how much of a fan he is of not just All Might, but heroes. And along with this small addition, we do unfortunately get a scene not adapted from the manga, which is that after Koichi fails to bring back Popstep Kazuho, we get the confirmation that Makoto as well as Koichi's mom Shoko are planning to sightsee around Tokyo, as we have Knuckle Duster in the background smoking a cigarette. And the reasoning why this is cut is just due to the fact that this was a part of being a manga and ending on a cliffhanger, but we don't necessarily need that, as we're going to be continuing on to the next chapter within the next scene. And speaking of the next scene, there is a very cool sort of scene transition where we get to see pictures very much like in the manga of the characters being taken, as we see that these pictures are being taken at certain locations around Tokyo with Makoto, Shoko, and Koichi in them, implying that they are being taken by someone else that is not a part of the main three, versus what was in the manga, which is shown that the photos are taken by one of the three that is not currently in the photo. And this confirmation is actually seen in the title page of chapter 17 of Makoto taking a picture of Koichi and Shoko. So I really like how the anime adds a little bit more attention to detail even for these smaller sequences. But as we get more one-for-one adaptations of the manga of Makoto and Shoko chastising Koichi for his all-might fascination as they return to the bus, there is a small change when it comes to this scene of the cat actually taking over the bus, and it's that in the anime, the cat jumps from a sign that is overhanging the street as it jumps onto the bus, versus what we got in the manga, which shows that the cat was already at the bus station and leaps onto the bus before it actually leaves. And what I like about this scene in the anime is that it makes it seem more intentional for the cat to jump on the bus in the anime versus more circumstantial or coincidental in the manga, because we later on see in the episode that this cat has a connection with Queen, and Queen would want to cause as much havoc as possible, so it makes sense that the cat would be also a little bit more mischievous in the anime involving Queen than it just being circumstance at best. But even with that, we also do get the reveal of the cat having a quirk called Monster Cat, which allows it to merge with and take full control over the bus. And this is great because this will probably be the second instance of an animal having a quirk, which we've known is possible in the world of My Hero Academia due to the fact that Nezu exists. And just to add a little bit more emphasis to this moment of the bus being taken over by the cat, we do get the anime slightly expanding on the Queen sequence transitioning into the cat bus takeover, by not only having her being in this diner a little bit longer versus what was in the manga, but also having the bus being taken over coincide with a zooming in to the eye of Queen as we see the bees reacting to transitioning into the cat's eye, showing that this is not just a mere coincidence, but was all planned by Queen herself. But from there, we're about to get more into the action-heavy part of the episode, where we once again get another scene that is expanded upon in the anime involving Knuckle Duster and Popstep getting involved in saving Koichi from this runaway bus, which is slightly expanded upon in the anime by having Knuckle Duster's conversation with Popstep expanded more, as well as seeing how she was able to get away, as well as just expanding on how Popstep was able to communicate with Knuckle Duster, as well as seeing where they landed to eventually lead to the cat bus changing course. But not only was this scene expanded upon more, we also do get some cut dialogue before Tensei Ingenium arrives to the scene to help save the individuals on the bus. And when it comes to a lot of this episode, there are minor cuts to minor panels that are either outside of the characters' regular interactions and perceptions and characterizations, such as with Koichi, or it's cuts of like small dialogues from side characters that really do not add really to what is happening in the anime at this moment. But still, I would have liked those moments to be added because some of them were just very funny. But as Ingenium does arrive on the scene, we do get to see what Knuckle Duster and Popstep were planning, which is that they created a pseudo cat toy to help divert the cat bus onto a new route with less people. However, it is also revealed that the new route is actually the bridge that was destroyed by the monster in the previous episode, to which we do get a flashback of it in the anime that is not in the manga. And like I said, there is some cut dialogue and even more cut scenes from the manga between Koichi and Ingenium before Ingenium arrives, as well as Makoto, Shoko, and Koichi being the last ones to get off the bus, which is more explicit in the manga, but it's changed slightly in the anime as we see most of the passengers being rescued before the cat truck rampages again after Queen injects more bee trigger drug into it. But there is a sequence that I really enjoyed and like that they changed because it makes more sense in the anime versus what we got in the manga, which is that during this sequence in the anime, it changes the sequence of having Ingenium save falling passengers using a pseudo-Ingenium fuel burst as he was still on the bus, which means that Makoto gets left behind. This slight change makes so much sense, as you would question in the manga why Ingenium was on the bus before everyone else was evacuated, but question why he got off before everyone was safe. And this also adds more to an explanation to why he could not just catch up to the cat bus more easily after not running much by having him use up more of his fuel, which would slow him down, because the anime shows him using a reciprocal burst, which we know is able to drain, if not clog, the Ingenium engine user. So I do like the changes that the anime does make because it adds a little bit more context to what was done in the manga, as well as address some issues that you may or may not have noticed in the manga. But if we're talking about changes, luckily enough, one change doesn't happen as the crawler appears to try and help, as we get to see more cut scenes of smaller interactions, yet funny panels that help streamline the episode, including having Koichi being chastised by his mama coming before he delivers the juice to Ingenium in the anime versus in the manga, which means that these scenes would have been flipped. So changes like this really allows for the anime to flow more smoothly being in an animated medium versus the manga, which is more still images. But I do have a slight gripe with what the anime does, because a slight irritation that was added before we get the very cool and well animated sequence of Koichi and Ingenium and evading the cat bus is that Ingenium litters. Tenya would be so disappointed in his older brother if he saw that. But anyway, eventually Koichi is able to catch up to the bus, as we do get once again cool action from Ingenium as Makoto eventually discovers the identity of the crawler being Koichi, as we begin to see the cat bus reach the end of the road, falling towards the ground like in the manga, and how very much like in the manga, but animated spectacularly, is Ingenium using his special move, Engine Mod, Hyper Acceleration, Rocket Charge, to try and catch Koichi, as Koichi is carrying Makoto using his slide and glide up the bus, but unfortunately misses Ingenium. And this is where we get something that we get a little bit more context to in the main story of My Hero Academia, which is that in this moment, Koichi sort of reawakens his quirk that has been long dormant in his body, that gives him the edge that he would need to make sure that Makoto is safe by allowing him to, in a essence, fly. And how I will say that the anime did do this scene from the manga justice. However, I do still prefer how the manga did it, but I will give props to the anime because this sequence, even in its entirety, is still very well animated. As well as, once again, this just really showing how Vigilantes and My Hero Academia proper are connected, because Koichi's reawakening of his quirk is very much to how Shigaraki sort of reawakened his quirk in a time of need against the Paranormal Liberation Army. But it's also at this moment where we get to see why Koichi's quirk was actually dormant inside of him, and it's all thanks to his mama Shoko, this is where we get the explanation about how Koichi did have at a younger age the ability to slightly fly, which is actually expanded upon a little bit more in the anime versus the manga, as well as we get the explanation is that as a kid he could fly, but his mom was very fearful of where he would go, so she used her quirk to slap him to prevent him from just flying around willy-nilly. Which is cool that this was slightly expanded upon, but what's also interesting about this scene is once again hitting at another side of Knuckle Duster, relating to Shoko as if he was a parent when it comes to having the kids learn how to fly on their own, and that the parents just need to teach them how to fall correctly. Once again, the manga and the anime just hinting more at Knuckle Duster not only being a parent, but also a pro hero, which is going to come into a head within the final episodes of this season, so be prepared. But as we're approaching the end of the episode, this episode's finale pretty much plays out beat for beat like the manga, with the cat bus crashing and the cat being recovered by Queen, the reveal that everyone survived the crash, Shoko leaving Koichi in good hands with Knuckle Duster and Pop Step, and hinting at a possible relationship with Makoto. And finally, the episode ending with Koichi training to hover above the ground as we figure out that there's a slight change from the manga where his ruined hoodie is more of a flashback in the manga, but we see that it's actually hanging up in his room as the episode ends. Overall, I thought this was a fantastic episode. It did everything right that it needed to, adapted what it needed to streamline the episode, while also adding a lot of great animation sequences that could keep you glued to the screen. Overall, I'm loving Vigilantes, and I can't wait for the season finale, which is going to be bombastic, and I can't wait to see what they change and add with that. But hey, let me ask you this. How did you feel about the episode? And was there anything in the episode that I may have missed? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!